Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and it's that time of year again to look back at the past, at my previously pretty poor predictions, and see how many I got right this year. I'm pretty sure it wasn't very many last year, I think about 6. So I'm a little bit more optimistic this year. I felt that the championship was a bit more predictable going in than it was in 2020, despite the fact that it was pretty obvious Lewis Hamilton was going to win. I felt the same in 2021, and as we know, it did not pan out that way. But we still have all those other predictions for every team and every driver to go through and see just how many I got right. So, first things first, make sure you subscribe because I'm probably going to be doing this again very, very soon. And you don't want to miss out on anything. And also, leave in the comments what your early season predictions were and did it pan out the way you thought it would. With that, it was a very, I want to say entertaining 2021, but it was a bitter campaign from pretty much everyone involved, and I don't think anyone really came out of it looking any the better. In fact, everyone came out of it looking pretty terrible. And, you know, the controversy that it ended with was kind of a downer. So, let's lighten it up a bit. It is Christmas. And let's look at some old predictions.
Haas, 10th.
With Nikita Mazepin last in 20th place and Mick Schumacher in 18th. I think this could be the year that Haas finally finish right at the back, which is not an achievement to be proud of.
Oh, Haas. I mean, this wasn't a hard shout to say they were going to finish last. They've kind of been going that way for a while. And whilst some may have hoped they'd score the odd point here or there, I don't think there's any doubt they were definitely going to struggle. To what degree? I don't think many people would have predicted that they would be pretty much last the entire year. I think Mick Schumacher got into Q2 once, and even then he did it by crashing. Nikita Mazepin has basically been last on every single race occasion. Practice, qualifying and the actual races. He even finished behind Robert Kubica, who only turned up for 2 races. It's bad, and it can only get better for Haas. This really was a blip. So I get 2 points because I said Nikita Mazepin would be last. I'm not going to count Robert Kubica in the championship for my own sake, and I said Haas would be 10th, so I get a point for that. Mick Schumacher I said would be ahead of Nicholas Latifi, and that did not pan out. Haas were much further behind than I thought they would be. So all eyes on 2022 for Haas, because this year has to be forgotten.
Williams 9th, with Nicholas Latifi 19th and George Russell 16th. It's going to be another tough year for them, but I think they are going to move much more into that tight midfield battle, and I think there will be points there for them.
Now, I called that Williams would be a bit further up the field than they have been, but they did much better than expected, even though it was really at only 4 rounds this year. They got very, very lucky, especially in Belgium where George Russell managed to score a podium mostly because the race did not go ahead. That being said, even Latifi did better than I thought. I said 19th. I thought Mick Schumacher would definitely finish ahead of him. I thought Giovinazzi would, and he beat both drivers. Did score loads of points, but he's really done a good job for Williams this year. He's clearly been the number 2, and I think everyone's been looking at Russell thinking that guy's the future, and it's kind of left Latifi in the dark a little bit. He's going to be back with Williams next year, and he really deserves a better car to do. If he can show anything, it'll be a good Formula 1 career for him. George Russell, moving up to Mercedes, he's had a good year really. 15th. I said 16th, I wasn't far off with him. A podium, 3 other points finishes, even though they were only 8th, 9th and 10th. It's enough to put Williams above Alfa Romeo, which I did not expect. George Russell finished 15th. He was ahead of both Alfa Romeos, both Haas's and his Williams teammate. That's a good year from him from where Williams have been. So all in all, this has been a very successful year for Williams really, and they did better than I thought.
Alfa Romeo 8th, with Antonio Giovinazzi 17th and Kimi Raikkonen 13th. Antonio Giovinazzi definitely improved last year. He even managed to equal Kimi Raikkonen's points. But I think he's going to struggle with a tighter midfield. And even though Alfa looked better in testing, I'm not buying how great this Ferrari engine upgrade is. And I think Alfa Romeo are going to struggle again.
Alfa Romeo were awful this year. I really did have much better expectations for Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen. I don't know why they were so off the pace, but I think it will hurt them to drop behind Williams. It's going to be a completely new look team next year with Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas. I'm probably expecting a lot better from that pairing than Kimi Räikkönen, who honestly stopped caring after 2007, and even when he came back, he really was just making up the numbers. Antonio Giovinazzi, he has had the odd impressive drive this year, the occasional good qualifying performance. It has not panned out for him, only 1 point all year, and he finished 19th, so definitely wrong on that one. I was expecting a little bit better from him. Kimi Räikkönen to finish 16th, behind George Russell. Definitely expecting better from him. I wasn't expecting a lot better, but it was actually even worse than I feared. And this is another team that really need to move up, and they could be in the midfield next year. I think it could be even tighter, so Alfa Romeo really need to pick their game up.
Alpine 7th, with Esteban Ocon 15th and Fernando Alonso 11th. This is an interesting year for Alpine because they're technically a new brand in Formula 1. They have a rallying history. They've even won the first World Rally Championship. But they've not been a Formula 1 manufacturer before. Although they are technically just Renault, I suppose.
So Alpine in 7th place. Well, I got this one wrong, but I wasn't too far off with the drivers. Ocon probably had a better year than I thought. I kind of wrote him off even after his win, because there was a point in the championship where if it wasn't for that, he would still be 14th or 15th. He had some very strong results towards the end of the year, and by the end, even if he didn't have that win, he would have finished 11th anyway. I said 15th, I was way off. So it's not amazing, but it's a good midfield drive from Esteban Ocon. Fernando Alonso, I was kind of surprised he did as well as he did. He finished ahead of Ocon, got a podium as well. So even with Ocon's win, Alonso managed to top him. And I thought the couple of years off from Formula 1 might have hurt him and he was going to struggle this year. There's been some very impressive driving from Alonso, and he really probably got the most out of the car that he could have. 10th place is no bad thing. I said 11th, so I wasn't too far away from getting Alonso right. That being said, I still think there's improvements to be made, even though they finished 5th in the Constructors, which is actually a really good result for them. They're still some way off the top though, and I think this team, they need regulation changes, I think, especially in the engine department, to catch the front-running teams. But they are a big enough unit to sort of push that. And, you know, Alonso, I don't know how long he's going to stick around for. He is getting on a bit. I think next year he will be the most experienced driver ever. I think he is only a few races behind Kimi Räikkönen. So I don't know how long he's going to stick around. I don't know how long Ocon's going to be given, especially with Oscar Piastri waiting in the wings now. So they have to have a very good 2022 or Alpine will replace one of them. So I don't know how much they can build on a 5th place. I really think it's their limit at the moment. But it wouldn't take too much for this pair of drivers to do just a little bit better. So 2022 is going to be very interesting for the team.
6th, AlphaTauri, with Yuki Tsunoda 14th and Pierre Gasly 9th. I definitely think that Pierre Gasly winning a race last year was a flash-in-the-pan fluke. A lot of things happened for that to happen, and I'm happy for him. And he's a good driver. I think he'll get a podium, maybe 2 podiums this year. But he is still a midfield driver in a midfield team, and even though AlphaTauri looked good in testing, I think that that's not the whole story there.
So, AlphaTauri, I was 100% spot on with this team. Not only did I say they would finish 6th, and they did, I said Yuki Tsunoda would finish 14th, and he did. I said Pierre Gasly was going to finish 9th, and he did. So if there's one team on the grid I get, apparently it's AlphaTauri. Yuki Tsunoda, it's been an up and down year. He had a great debut and a great final race. The middle bit was mixed. He's had his moments. but there's definitely something there. I think this is the best driver pairing in a while for AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly, honestly, he out and out one of the best drivers on the grid, really deserves a winning car under him. And one day I really hope he gets it, because he is squandering his career in the midfield with AlphaTauri. I don't think he's going to be given the Red Bull seat back, even if they don't keep Sergio Perez beyond 2022. I kind of hope they don't, because Pierre Gasly does deserve that drive. And I think Sergio Perez has proven it does take time to get used to the car. So if they'd given Pierre Gasly more time in the first place, we might not be in the situation where they've had to replace Alexander Albon and Sergio Perez to get Pierre Gasly in that top drive. That being said, it's a good year for AlphaTauri. It's probably about where you expect them to be. It's definitely where I expected them to be, because I got this one 100% right, remember. And hopefully I can get them right again in 2022.
Aston Martin 5th, with Lance Stroll 12th and Sebastian Vettel in 8th. This is a tough one to call as well, because testing did not go their way. They had a few problems, and Vettel probably didn't get the laps he really needed to. That being said, Aston Martin are probably more focused on Vettel than Ferrari were, and this could be a little bit of a resurgence for him. Hopefully he'll stop spinning, hopefully he'll stop crashing into his teammate, hopefully he'll get a few good results here and there.
Now, I said Aston Martin 5th. I should have probably known that I should have swapped this with Alpine. If I had, I'd been pretty much right, I think. The ones I've got wrong, literally, if I'd swapped Alpine and Aston Martin and Williams and Alfa Romeo, I'd have got the manufacturers 100% right. Aston Martin, I was kind of going off their success in 2020. Sergio Perez leaving the team was a big loss of their own making. I'm sure he would have stayed if they'd offered. Sebastian Vettel's not a bad driver. He does spin a lot more than he used to. Probably gets caught up in more incidents than they would like, although they've not really been his fault this year. Disqualified in Hungary from a second place after a really good drive. He's probably been more unfortunate than most. I said he was going to finish 8th, he finished 11th, and given the performance of the car, that's probably about right. Lance Stroll did manage to finish 12th in the end, and he had a really bad run of results, but he definitely wasn't the last Lance Stroll of 2020. I said last year he came on heaps and bounds. This year it was more mediocre, and I don't really see him getting any better than this. So I think this, at the moment, this is about where they are. I think it's going to take a little bit more to progress up the grid. I'm still not really inspired by this driver lineup. As I said, I think Lance Stroll really has hit his limit, and Sebastian Vettel's definitely had his prime heyday. So I think as they are now, this is where they'll be next year as well. Don't see them pushing for wins. They'll be very lucky to get podiums. That being said, love the livery, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next year.
McLaren 4th, with Daniel Ricciardo in 6th and Lando Norris in 10th. Again, McLaren are a very hard team to place on the grid. I think that they did incredibly well with Renault engines, and if the Mercedes engine is better, they should do better than that. But it's hard to see them breaking that top 3, and they could just be top of the midfield.
I feel so bad for Lando Norris. There really was a point in this series where it looked like he was in a fight for 3rd place in the championship, ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. In the end, he dropped behind Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari as well. But he did better than I thought, because I said 10th, and he managed to grab 6th, and there were some absolutely stonking performances, and he only really just missed out on that first win in Russia. It was a mistake, but I don't see... I mean, it's right saying in hindsight, but at the time we were all willing him on. He's going to come back stronger. I think he's, again, one of the best young drivers on the grid. There's a fantastic next generation of Formula 1 drivers there. They just need to be unleashed. And I think Lando Norris showed what he's got this year. Ricciardo, I said he finished 6th. He actually finished 8th. It was disappointing at times, even though he managed to grab a win. It took him a lot longer to acclimatise to the car than I thought it would. And really, performances, especially towards the end of the year, did not pan out for McLaren. They dropped behind in the development race. there was a real chance for them to finish third in the Constructors, and they missed out and finished fourth, which is what I said they would do. And it's another right prediction, at least for the Constructors. Another team that they could be right up there challenging, especially for podiums next year. And that is very, very exciting. I think next year is going to be very, very tight between more teams. And McLaren can be right up there.
Ferrari 3rd, and Carlos Sainz Jr. 7th, with Charles Leclerc 5th. Ferrari really did me dirty last year. I did not expect how far they'd fall after their fuel management issues from 2019. It really hit the Ferrari-powered cars, and especially the main team, who had their worst year since something like 1986. It was ridiculously bad. They say they've made improvements. They looked okay in testing. I'm not saying they're right back up at the top, but as long as they can get back into 3rd, it's a start. And they have two great drivers in Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr.
You know, if I just switched to drivers, I'd have got Ferrari spot on. I said 3rd in the Constructors. It took till the end of the season, but they did it. I said Leclerc 5th, Sainz 7th. I think it shows how talented Carlos Sainz is, that he managed to grab 5th at the final race. It's been an up and down season for both of them, but Carlos Sainz has been so consistent. I think he only finished outside the points twice. I think he finished every race, which is pretty amazing. Leclerc has had his bad luck at times. Of course, he had pole at Monaco and then didn't take part in the race. And Silverstone, Hamilton only just caught him, really. He could have won that one. But this has been something of a renaissance for Ferrari, and hopefully it can continue, because I think both these drivers deserve to win more races. Carlos Sainz, I really hope he gets a win before his career's over. And he is still fairly young, but he is sort of in the middle of his Formula 1 career. And this is kind of probably the peak. There'll be a time when he leaves Ferrari and he'll probably only find midfield teams waiting for him. But 2021 so far it was really impressive from Sainz. He finished 6th the last 2 years, so to take that extra step up in 5th from a car that wasn't necessarily competitive at the start of the year, and he really dragged some results out of it, got a few podiums. Honestly, I can't fault Carlos Sainz at all. And Leclerc's a great driver. He was unlucky in the end, could have easily been 6th in the championship. I'm expecting big things from this Ferrari pair.
Red Bull 2nd, with Sergio Perez 3rd, and Max Verstappen 2nd. It hurts me to say it, because in testing, it looks like Red Bull have the advantage. And I'm sure we've been in this position before after testing. I'm going to play it boring and say that Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are nailed on for another double. But I think it's going to be closer this year. I still think Hamilton's going to take it with 3 or 4 races to spare. And with even more races on the calendar, that could be 5 or 6.
I wish I'd been a bit more ambitious in my predictions, because there was a voice inside of me that wanted Verstappen to win and hoped beyond hope. But the cynic in me said that it was going to be another Hamilton-Mercedes whitewash, and it really wasn't. It was a really back and forth year for the pair. Who had the advantage? It differed at times, but I think Mercedes definitely had the advantage more often than not, which just makes it more impressive that Verstappen was able to win out in the end. It was on countback, so he can count himself lucky he won Belgium, which was kind of a farce, and obviously there was controversy in the end. But honestly, he's done such a fantastic job all year. It doesn't detract from the work he's done. I think Mercedes, they were the ones playing more mind games than anyone. Toto Wolff really is the master of that, and I don't think Christian Horner really helps the situation. I think from a PR perspective, this actually probably hurts Red Bull more than losing the championship. I've seen a lot of people slandering them on Twitter, but they can be very, very proud of their achievements. Their first championship since 2013, and Max Verstappen, I think the first of a number of championships. To me, he's pound for pound the best driver on the grid, including Hamilton. And yes, he got his elbows out at times this year, but that just shows he's a competitive driver who wants to win, and that's not really a bad thing. It makes the sport more exciting. Perez, he did a good job. It took him a while to get used to the car, and results in the second third of the year were definitely an improvement. He got podiums, took a lucky win in Azerbaijan, and the only thing he could have done more was get ahead of Bottas in the championship, and he wasn't far off. But what it meant was I got both these drivers wrong, because I said second and third, and they finished first and fourth. Got the constructors right though, so that's something. I just wish I'd put Verstappen above Hamilton in the prediction video.
And Mercedes first, with Valtteri Bottas fourth and Lewis Hamilton first. I know it's the most boring answer I can give to the question of who's going to be champion, but it's hard to bet against Mercedes. They have been absolutely dominant. This is the most dominant a team has been ever in Formula 1. This is more dominant than Schumacher and Ferrari.
And finally, Mercedes. Was there any doubt they were going to win the Constructors? I don't know. I predicted they were going to win it, and they did. I got both drivers wrong because I said first and fourth, and they finished second, third. Again, if I just swapped them for the Red Bull drivers, I think I'd have got this one right. So I wasn't too far off with that many of my predictions this year. Hamilton should be disappointed. It really was taken from him on that last lap. He could have been an 8-time champion. I bet he's at home looking back thinking he should have left after 2020 instead of fighting so hard for this 1-year contract or 2-year contract, whatever it was. Does it dent his legacy? Not really. I mean, Mercedes have given him so much. He's very lucky to be in that seat, because anyone else, we'd be talking about someone else being this mega champion that Lewis Hamilton's managed to get. And I don't know if Mercedes will have the advantage next year. I don't know if Hamilton will end up fighting more with George Russell than he has with Bottas, who's really been a compliant second driver. It's the future for Mercedes is tough to tell, especially as there's talk that Hamilton might be quitting the sport, which if he does, that's the most bitter, disappointing thing he could do. I'm not sure. I think he'll stay because I think he is still competitive and he wants to win. I think he definitely wants to get that 8th trophy as well. As for Bottas, he's leaving Mercedes, going to Alfa Romeo. I don't think we'll ever see him win a race again, so it's disappointing he only got one this year. As much as I've slammed him in the past, he's not a bad driver, he's just not great. And he's done a job for Mercedes these last few years, and they should be very, very thankful to him. Not expecting huge things from him at Alfa Romeo. Maybe dragging them back into the midfield would be something. And I'm more excited to see George Russell in that car than Bottas, to be honest. It's going to set up an interesting 2022 because we have this huge rivalry that really dominated everything in 2021. It's going to be interesting to see if they are still by far and away the best two drivers on the field and just run away with every race, or if it can be tighter. It would be nice if it was tighter. I think Red Bull are in a stronger position next year because Sergio Perez seems more up to speed than he was at the start of 2021, and it might take George Russell a bit of time. We'll have to see. That's going to be an interesting championship to watch, and I can't wait for it to start. So there are my predictions. How did I do? Well, I got 6 of the constructors right, which isn't bad. That's more than 50%. And I really got 2 pairs mixed up. Drivers, not so good. I only got 3 right. It's pretty bad. But still, 9 out of, 30? That's almost a third of them right. So it's not too bad, but I do want to do better in 2022. And that video will be coming out at some point next year, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts down below. How did you think I did? Were there any that you thought you were going to get right and didn't, or did you get some spot on yourself? Leave a like, tell your friends. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.